as I've said before, and was said by the doctor, this was on the Silk Road. They built the Silk Road to pass this place. My ancestors come from this village, from this city. My grandmother comes from this city. And I still remember when my mother used to speak, she still had some accents from this area. And I used to make a joke of her because I said, you come from Hamadan, you can't help it because we have a lot of jokes about Hamadan. And it's in a way, Silk Road became a route for mixture of cultures, where people from the East through the Silk Road, as was those days, not the Silk Road, but the trading routes between the Middle East, Asia, and Central Asia, the Jews, being people of the commerce, moved up and down this Silk Road from Palestine to Egypt, up to Iran, into Samarkand, and in all the way to China. That's how we find the ancient Jews in northwest of China. And in so many ways, this is where the knowledge and the belief and the commerce took shape in different shapes and forms, but under the same, what we call banner, under the same principle, 12 days of Christmas, the Easter, the Jewish celebrations of about the same time, and the rest. In a way, as the people of commerce took their knowledge of what they've seen to the other places, people used that place and the new names to bring back what has been learned from somewhere else. And sometimes I wonder how much of what we know as Mitra and Mitraism has come from the travels of the universe. As they came here, they taught man, and the man took that up and changed it to Mitra and the rest of it, or in a way to the lover of the creator. Doesn't matter what name we put on it. And the child of the love of the creator, which comes to be both in physical and the soul manifestation of the creator. But it's interesting, it brought back a lot of memories where I used to hear things from my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather, that how it used to be. Are there any other questions?
Just to say that my mother is from here also. She lived a short time. My mother was born there. And thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a very special word for this. It goes together. We call it Hamadan and Chamadan. People from Hamadan, Chamadan means suitcase. They were always travelers. They always had their suitcase with them, traveling to another place because they were on the route of going to the east or west or south to much beautiful places within the Silk Road. And it's beautiful to be in this position. And hopefully, Keshe Foundation in the next few weeks will open the first factory at the beginning of the Silk Road in Xinjiang, in central part of the China. And thanks to the Keshe Foundation team in China, we will see emergence of the Keshe Foundation at the root, at the beginning of the where the China was made, China potteries and what we know. And we were taken there by the officials some 2 years ago to start the negotiation and building of the first Keshe Foundation factory, where the Silk Road, the mother birth of it started. It's a beautiful city. I've been there many times. And hopefully in the coming weeks, you will see one of the most advanced Keshe Foundation factories built, operating at the beginning of this Silk Road in Xinjiang. And thanks to the Keshe Foundation team, They've been flying in and out of there, some of them in the past couple of weeks. And the new factory, one floor of it is especially designed for creating potteries made by Keshe Foundation through the GANS technology space development on this floor. What we provide now in the Keshe Foundation cups, more advanced versions of it will be produced in the coming weeks in China in what we call Ceramic City, and you all will enjoy. In a way, Keshe Foundation reopens what we call the Silk Road, this time the silk being the knowledge, technology, and peace, and the beauty and softness of it. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this. And we see the next setup of the Keshe Foundation on the Silk Road in Tehran. The Keshe Foundation offices in Tehran is established and was opened yesterday or the day before by the knowledge seekers of the Iran. And it's a beautiful place to be in. It's a beautiful place to be part of. In the next couple of weeks, we show you the headquarters of the Keshe Foundation in Iran and beginning of the setting up of all the structures for the Keshe Foundation to produce and develop this, what we call Keshe Foundation technology on the Silk Road. And it's a very interesting thing. The dream of His Excellency President Xi to reestablish the Silk Road, the old way, the marathon way, because the Silk Road is not just a road. President Xi has opened the marathon routes of the Silk Road, all the ships, the way they used to travel different part of the world too. And we'll see that how the collection and correction of the time has brought us back some thousands, hundreds of years ago in how the love of the trade and trading commerce now become the trading love and peace through the knowledge and technology. It is a very interesting time for Keshe Foundation in moving forward to another step. Beginning of the Silk Road, we have taken shape, and we'll see where this Silk Road takes us to the beauty of the humanity. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. There's a question in YouTube. Just a second here while I get it lined up. From I Am. Greetings. I have a question for Mr. Keshe. Firstly, I thank Mr. Keshe for giving so much of himself. Question is, once becoming one with the Creator, do we lose our individuality, our identity? And at that point, would we possess enough field strength to become a star?
I think this is the wrong way to put a question. Where we are now, as we said at the beginning of the teaching, how many souls and positions of souls have we had in that journey from the Creator to now? And do we remember any of it? In essence, we do. In essence, when a man matures to understand the process of creation, the memories of the trip from the Creator to creation will be clear. As every cell has the memory of which part of the man is and where he's got to take position because it understands the position of man, the structure of the man. So every field which has come from the Creator and in different positions in taking shape in its travel to where we are now has collected the memory of the point. In time, mankind will understand that even a single field of magnetic field as a plasmatic field contains all the knowledge of the Creator from the point of inception till now. The way our DNA works, the way our RNA works. And so, yes, we do. Does not matter when you have a piece of magnet, how many pieces you cut it into. they still have the beauty and the strength of the original magnet. And we are one of those pieces of magnet in a smaller diversion and conversion. We still carry the property, the beauty of the creator within the structure of our soul. So do we remember? But if we become pure enough to go within and understand the total detachment from the dimension of physicality, yes, we do. In so many ways, I explained this to a theologist quite some time ago. Maybe now you understand more. Magnetical is a dimension of physicality of the man. Gravitational is a dimension of understanding the creation physicality of the man to hold on to. But on the other word, the same word, magnetical is the love of the creator, and gravitational is the pull of that love for us to return back to the lover. So do we remember? Yes, we do, because we are part of that bigger piece of magnet, which has been chopped to smaller and smaller, but we still have the same strength and the same properties as the original. This is what, in a way, what we say, I made man in the image of myself, because man is part of that magnet, which was created, was the creator. So we carry that, but we have forgotten that point of reference where we got cut off, or what was put together to make us does not deliberately or separately separated us from the creator. Yes, we do. If the easiest way to explain, get yourself a very long magnet and cut it as many pieces as you like, you will see it still has the same strength as the origin and the same magnetical and gravitational fields. So shall be the man and the soul of the creator. We have the full memory, the path to the creator, but because we are smashed up to so many pieces, we've forgotten which part of the puzzle we fit in. But in essence, is no other way to explain it than what I said regarding the magnet. Because when you spread and break up the plasma, it still carries the same like the magnet. And the love of the creator is in the dynamic plasmatic field. It's very much, when you go back to original teaching, when a neutron splits into electron and proton, it does not matter about the size, but they still have the polarity, they still have the interaction of the fields, they still carry the same strength, but in different amounts that it dictates vision. In a way, when man becomes more mature in understanding how to break up the plasmas in different portions, he will see the same kind of understanding. In the coming time, we'll show you how the splitting of plasma will come, and in reality, how, for example, electron is created out of neutron, and it creates what we call electron and proton. Division of a plasma to given a specific strength is an art, and it takes thousands of years to master it. And be able to cut the best perfect cut out of it and get the result you want. In a way, some of the dynamic reactors were designed this way to do, but you never understood that the plasma can be split in a very special way. And in the development of the Iran space program, when we see the smaller reactor, this property is applied quite often by setting up a specific field reactions within the structure of the plasma. That you can split a plasma into given divisions. You can split it into half, you can split it in quarter size, but in a way you don't split it, you encourage the separation by creation of the environment. If you understood the process of the split of the neutron into electron and proton, and why always proton stays about the same in essence because of the conditions and the field strength of it, and the position of it forces that position. And if you were a nuclear physicist and could understand the structure of atomic structure of the boundaries and the electrons, we will see different electron size in different boundaries, because and due to the strength they need to position themselves not only with the proton which were created out of the neutron, but in respect to the other electrons or protons within the structure of the atom. And this is an art that once man learns, he will learn in the what we call the space technology something very different. In the space technology and in nuclear interactions, we now look at a very different way of working. We say if it's a neutron, it splits to electron and a proton. But when it comes to atomic structure, we see the neutron and protons and electrons in a very different way. They are not positioned this way. They are positioned in distance in respect to totality. Then you will see how each electron takes position in respect to the field strength in respect to the total, where this is connected to this, but this one is connected to this. The more centralized protons are connected to the furthest distance electrons. And this, it teaches you a lot that you do not need to make your way to, but you elevate directly in the dimensional. So you can make as many electrons to fit in the same position. By understanding not the splitting, but the direct interaction fields, common denominator in a strength. In one of the scientific papers, I have touched on this knowledge, but mankind cannot comprehend this fully, because what will happen is that in the future, when we want to travel to a point in a space, we work on the coordinates like this. And depends where the galaxy or where the universe you decided will sit in this dimension. It's a part of the art of deep space travel. And then you understand how when we use the knowledge of splitting the plasma comes into operation. Not the strength of the plasma strength. In one process of space travel, we go into the inner sanctum by the strength. In another way of traveling, which is very, very advanced, much more advanced than the other, is we directly position ourselves by creating the field strength within the plasma that created that electron. So we directly take position in that electron. This way, you can travel the depth of the universe in a much safer and faster way, and you don't need to hop along or travel in a reverse line of physical position. This is an extremely advanced technology, but there's not the time and the place for it. How a proton is created out of a neutron, and how the electron has, as a totality, will keep the field strength of the dimension, but then you can create another electron which carries the same property independent of the position. And then you will see you can travel, manifest yourself instantaneously anywhere in the universe. This, what we call universal deep space technology, is very advantageous when you want to travel between universes. It gives you a totally different proposition in totality of the structure. This method of going to the center is good when you travel within your, what we call universe. But when you want to travel into what we call unicos dimension, this is one of the best ways. Any other questions? My telephone. Ah, I'm not connected.
Pardon me?
Stop sharing the screen. Stopped. It's flashing.
There we are.
There we are. We're back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have a question in the Q&A from Salamea, who says, what is love? What is peace according to plasma science, the science of the soul? Thanks, Mr. Keshe. Much love.
She says, what is love and what peace? And it says much love. depends what you understand of the love and what you understand of the peace. When you receive equal amount as what you give or you expect to receive for what you give, you're at peace. So balance between the lover and the loved one in being happy to what you receive brings you peace. And that's what it is when you find balance. When you find peace, you might give it 10, scale of 10, 10, but you're happy to receive 2, then you're at peace. But you can give 10 and you receive 9 and you're not still happy and you're not at peace. So the peace is a terminology in the expectation of the man, what it gives to what he receives, or you give unconditionally and whatever you give brings you joy. And that is called the peace too. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a question in the YouTube from O Mexicano, who is proposing to do an experiment with GANs balls, and he's wondering, or his experiment has to do with what would happen
With what?
with GANs balls with GANs in them,
Yep.
specifically with hydrogen GANs and with oxygen GANs. 2 balls with hydrogen and 1 with oxygen, to imitate the H2O, the H2O water molecule. So they would be in the same position as the H2O molecule. And he's intending or wishing to create water from this configuration. So is it possible to, through the imitation of the molecular structure, to create some of the characteristics of those molecules with GANs balls?
It is, why not? But how do you make your balls and how do you make the GANs of oxygen? We know how to make hydrogen, but how do you make the GANs of oxygen? And once you made it, how you bring it in attraction and interaction with the hydrogen to give you the GANs physical, what I call magnetic field dimension of the plasma of the gas of water. The understanding has to be slightly indifferent in creating matter condition you call water. And that comes from understanding the plasma fields of the environment. You cannot have a rain of water in Jupiter or Saturn, where you have a liquid drop of another thing. But what does mean to have a drop, a liquid shape we call water? Water, creation of water is a very simple job if you understand it, because if you look at the Chinese space reactor, we showed you, we put plastic pieces on the floor to see the droplets. And droplets, if we had the 2 reactors here, were created mainly in this region. We could see it. And then it comes to how come 2 units create a condition of H2O. And in a given position, we didn't have rain droplets anywhere else except in this environment. How did we get to this point? And we have reported this during when it happened. It's to understand that you have to create a gravitational magnetic field of 16 to 2. But in a given position of 16 to 2, you can pick up plutonium and still create water if you know what to use on the other side of it. But that water will be plutonium water strength liquid. This is how we create sulfur rains in some planets and nitrites in another. This is the knowledge of understanding and knowledge of how you create fields within center. You don't necessarily need 3 to create it. It's understanding this process. Any other question?
Okay, we've got,
I can't hear you. Just wait. Can you repeat, please?
I was going to say we've got, we had Ed with a hand up here. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Ed, for putting your hand up again. And there you can speak now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keshe, the question, in trying to interact with the creator or different levels of the universe or universes, does this correspond in any way to the different levels of matter within us, the transitional matter and the principal matters?
Can you repeat that again, please? Our technicians in.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I heard you, but
Okay.
I was doing something else in the background to get you back on the screen. You're
Well,
still learning how to work with these cameras. And they jump from one to another. You're not in behind it like me. I get all sorts of signals, and I'm supposed to interpret what it means. And sometimes the brain is a bit too slow. So I go somewhere else, and they're asking for something else. And gradually we get used to it. And the funny thing is there's 4 or 5 of these cameras everywhere. Can you repeat the question, please?
So my question is, and I'm sorry if it's a shallow question or whatever, but in interacting with the soul of the creator, or in trying to interact with different areas of the universe or different universes or places of this sort, does this in any way correspond to the different levels of matter within us, the transitional matter and the principal matters?
Partially, yes. Because we feel it at this matter state we are in. We are not in a matter state. Life of man in a physical dimension is not in a matter state. Matter state is a stone. Matter state is a chair. The life of the man, the way we are in a plasmatic state of what we call dynamic condition, where we can move, where we have organs which actively work to keep life. So, first of all, we are not in matter state, even though it's technicality, we cover it with a cloth or whatever, and we still call it to be in the matter state. We are in the plasmatic state, and in that plasma state, yes, we have a chance, we can do and we can achieve. It's just how, instead of being solid to become that position, we are a bit more freer to be able to reach that position. But we are not in matter state, no shape or form. In the operation of life of the man, the nearest thing to a matter state is your bone, which is the calcium. But the rest, even that calcium has life because continuously changes to fit the need of the man. When we look at the bone structure of the man, the calcium bone structure, the cavity in it, dictates the amino acid we produce as whatever. And so even that bone is alive. It dictates what energy to take, what energy to give, and what to leave behind. So man never been in a matter state. In the plasmatic dynamic state we are in, and more looser, which is the soul, we all interact with the bigger, looser, and stronger fields we call the environment and the solar system and the rest. Any other questions? Today, by the way, is April Fool's Day as in Iran, and a freedom of believing the true God. Any other question?
Yes, we have a question from Raphael in the Q&A, who says, he says it's a question from a knowledge seeker to Mr. Keshe. You said that a coronavirus is an energy pack, and under the right conditions, it materializes over a cell of the body. When it materializes, is that what our scientists see in the microscope? If this is correct, then if we put cup of life 1 and 2 on both sides of the microscope, would we be able to see it dissolve back into energy fields? Maybe the Iranian scientists have the facility to do this experiment and prove the truth of the technology to the world.
This is what happens in reality. We drain the energy. You see, as I explained when we in previous teachings we have seen, is that you have the cell and you have what we call a virus. These have their own entity. We see no physicality with the virus, but we see physicality in our cell. When the virus and the cell create the first line of contact, it says, hello, who are you? It says, I'm here, we have something to talk about. The virus, corona, comes as a field in interaction with a cell. In coming in touch is just energy and matter. When some of the energies of the virus in interaction with the energies of the cell interact, you get a residual, what we see as a crown. And that's what's called corona. We see it in different shape with other viruses. So what we see as what we call corona and the establishment of this is the interaction of the fields of these two, where partially manifests itself as a crown, or what we call corona. So it does not exist. And when we introduce a smaller package, whatever we call it here, which is in field strength the same, in establishing a line, because this had the same connection of the length, we start depleting the energy of the virus, and with it, we will see changes in this back to normality. But because we bring it to the balance to this, the energy of the virus will be there, but not as effective to damage the package, but in a way of what we see as an interaction field. Now is a three-sum game. You have your ganses, you have the cell, and you have the virus energy. That's what it is. We do not see total demolition of the virus. This is one of the biggest problems scientists have with the Keshe Foundation technology. They still see the energy of the virus, but they don't see the virus effectiveness. In a way, it's a kind of immunization, but instead of immunizing with little or half, now we produce, with immunization, more or less we create a copy of the virus near us than we are interacting with. With the space technology, we put this outside and let it to interact with this outside and deplete the energy. This is one of the biggest problems scientists have. They see the virus is still in the blood, but they see no energy. And that's what is confusing, because they do not understand the space technology as it is. Plasma technology does not destroy, allows cohabitation, but in a fair condition and a balanced fields. So we mix the cultures and even goes to the clothing and not just the food.
Mr. Keshe, getting back to that question about the virus under the microscope, would the scientists be able to see the disappearance of the material aspect of the virus under an electron microscope or some other type of process? Would it actually disappear visually?
It diminishes, but doesn't disappear. There's a big difference between diminishing and disappearing. It's what you do in vaccination. This is a vaccination through plasma technology, if you want to call it. And in the science of plasma, we never destroy and kill anything. We reach balance, we reach peace and equality, where both can exist. Because a virus still is a living thing, and it has to exist, it has to be there. And so this is the tape it takes. And yes, we see it. We had a lot of discussions about this with the health people. It's not effective, but it's still there. It's supposed to kill. And once they get used to it and they see people walking up, but they still carry the virus, they understand this is a now plasma vaccination, as they call it. But without any injection, but the finding a balance of peace. This is a part of what this energy will stay with us, which will make us peaceful. The energy of it will become to being stronger, needs a stronger environment, needs a stronger soul, and that soul being stronger will walk away from this animal behavior. We are observing in the background the behavior of the people who went through Corona. And majority of them have become very peaceful. They don't even recognize their own behavior compared to past. Even the pain of going through the infection, to them is part of the process of maturity. It's very strange. They all become very peaceful. And I'm keeping an eye on a number of these people who confirm to have Corona. Any other questions?
Question has come up in the live stream regarding the use of the CH3 GANs, and from Freed, who says regarding the Corona, it was not advisable to use the CH3. Is that still true, as it would be needed for space travel, and can it be replaced or used otherwise?
We advise the CH3 not to be used, as the H is a common denominator, energy free, and the virus could have used it in the process. Now, as we go through the process of what we call achieving a balance, we recommend you can use it, but be careful in how to use it. And in the case of Corona state, try to keep away from it for a while till you settle the situation. Because once the balance is reached, as I just shown, then both the cell and the virus, or what we call energy pack, will receive the same. And being the same, so it doesn't create the mayhem. But when you reach that point of what we call the balance, you're safe, more or less. But before that, we recommend not to, because there are two separate entities and they reach to maximum energy to be able to support. So what we call Corona being stronger absorbs more and creates a weakness in the cell. Now you reach the balance, both reach the same, achieve the same strength. And that more or less allows the elevation of the soul in a different way. Because now the soul has reached the balance because of the new condition. The cell has moved up, have found the position of peace and balance. So the soul, in moving up, finds peace and balance. If you remember, we discussed this about the growth of wheat and rice in Mongolia a couple of years ago. And when we start asking the farmers how they feel, they were much happier, they were much, they never got sick in a way, they wanted to work. So we saw the use of just being in the environment of the GANs has brought elevation of the soul and happiness and joy and existence. So we see when we get a virus, we come in the same position of the higher order. So the soul gets elevated by it too. And it's very interesting how the physicality and the soul of the man as an energy pack gets affected by interaction with the soul. And then it depends how we use it, how we see the position of the elevation of the soul. I'm sure many of you have been shocked with the teaching of today and the influence of the virus and what it is and what is brought. And many of you, and when it goes in a, what we call open spaces for the others to understand, it'll become very harsh to understand how a man could be in this position, that a virus is a tool to bring peace, and we say it has not. What it brings at the end counts, not the process to get there in so many ways, even though some are there to be the bridge. I explained this at the beginning of the corona to a couple of knowledge seekers who could understand the process at that time. In a way, the souls which have, we said people, so many people died of corona, whatever. These are that bridge which ants make, and each ant sacrifices life for the others to be able to reach to the other side. And it's not a sacrificing. This is knowing that I'm still alive, I hold on to the chain, and I allow the other souls to cross to higher elevation, to better pastures. And then when the time comes, I can let go and join them. This is the process of what we call elevation of the soul of the man. And at this moment of time, we call it so many million people. We don't know how many of them in reality took the path to be that ants on that bridge to allow the rest to reach home or the safety of them, becoming closer to the Creator. But in essence, we are all in it together this time. And I don't see things in a way you do, because we know where it's come from and where the essence of it is, even though we work on the front line, trying to get the nations not to stop the injections or immunization, but to show there is a way that not only you immunize the physicality of the man, but you elevate the soul of the man with the same process that brings all of us to peace. Mankind and the society of man will change very much with this corona. We find fighting and wars impossibilities, doesn't matter who cries for it. We find injustices very much in the backfire. And we find mankind will find a solution, a way that we went through this, we can get through it. We just need a little bit more patience. We find a better way to educate, we find a better way to live, and we find a better way to spend our time, to put it in a useful way, in a peaceful way, to use the opportunity given to us by the Creator in any shape or form to create peace on this planet. And some people might say this is a cruel way, but how many millions of you have been killed in the war since Second World War? 20 million by the American forces, initiated by them. 20 million by the Germans. We saw the wars before, how many millions of us have been killed from wars over centuries. First of all, we don't see the death of 1 or 2 million people by corona as a death, but wasted. What we see as a step towards world peace, towards the wishes of what it was. And these souls have not sacrificed. These souls have become steps towards the development of peace. This is the way the Creator works. In a way, teaching man to be generous, to give. Don't forget, not all of us catch corona. Those who have a different structure of the soul invite the soul. In the teaching in the past couple of weeks, in a very hidden way, I think it was in American teaching when I spoke about the apple in the shop. Is this you who go for the apple? Or is the soul of the apple which invites you to eat me, that I can transfer my energy to a bigger dimension and dominion? Up to now, you thought you choose the apple. But now if you think of it, the apple has chosen you to spread not its seeds, but the energy it has carried to a higher level that it can affect and change through the body of the man to a higher level. If you understand this process, you will understand that in the world of plasma, in the world of science, the true science of the universe, we don't look at the way you look at it in the matter state. And it brings a lot of joy to see I'm an apple, eat me, because this way I have elevated myself to a higher order to become part of the bigger part of the body of a man. And then it gives you a different understanding of the world of creation. You thought you were hunting, but in fact you were hunted. And this is what we have to understand as man in understanding of the totality of the creation. In a way, if you listen to the video, which wasn't translated at the end, he says it shows that in the Mithraism culture, they did not sacrifice animals as they do in the others. They gave, if you saw him put his hand up, they gave food and fruits as a way for the soul of the creator to elevate, not to destroy. And in a way, by putting the seed away, you allow it to transfer its energy to the giver, to what is called the Mitra, the creator. And this is why I say people don't understand the true meaning of the Zoroastrianism. They don't understand the true meaning of Mithraism, which is the path of God. Where in other religions, especially in Islamic religion, we sacrifice animals. In the understanding of the Mithraism, we give food to the gods, which means we nourish them from the essence, not by eating it, but by transferring the energy from their life into their life, that they get elevated. And this is what has not been understood in the Western culture, because they lost the essence of giving by not eating it, but by transferring of the energy to the god or the goddess, that he elevates from the earth to the physicality and the soul of it. Any other question?
Well, perhaps we should cut things to an end here, Mr. Keshe. There's really,
But in fact, the third world nations and the others which should come late into technology, they don't have all the commitments of the past. They have a better system than what we do. But in the near future, it's all sorted.
okay, very good. We did have a question from Ivan, who says, Rick, I remember by January, Mr. Keshe said he will show soon how to make the cell phone battery charging with the little nanowire and GANs. I have not seen that yet, or maybe missed it. Can you ask Mr. Keshe to share this info with us, please, so we can start practicing on something practical between the workshops? Thanks.
Oh, you have plenty of things to practice. It is used, it was used in the first torch we showed. You can do it very easily, but you can do in a different form and ways by choosing the right nanomaterial and the right ganses that you create that conversion. In the new enhancement units, we use this technology. As I said, we don't share it, and a lot of technologies in the new enhancement units are not shared, but this is part of it. Zero-time communication. We have what we call wireless communication between all the reactors, where they find the balance and the work of it and the energy transfers. We don't teach everything so easily as before, because we got to see how humanity reaches the conclusion, but the hidden technologies in the new space reactors, especially the flight system, which is getting built up, uses all the technologies which we have spoken about. The combination of the fields, nanotechnology, and many others. Let's see how you catch up. And we are not there for you to see how we show you that you can copy and then never catch up. It's the process of understanding the technology, and we are very good at in understanding and conversing the knowledge.
Does anyone else of our attendees here have a question for Mr. Keshe before we wrap up in the next few minutes here? Or
Rick, may I ask another question?
yeah, I wasn't sure if your hand was accidentally coming up there or not. Go ahead.
Mr. Keshe, in many ways, I think you've answered this, but when we use the GANs to help with the coronavirus symptoms, and it depletes the energy of the virus, but it's still hanging around, so to speak. Does that allow it to interact with us in a way to elevate our souls, but not so much have the physical symptoms?
In a way, you're working with a higher level cover. So you receive a higher level energies. And this allows you to work in a much easier way, with a better understanding of the process of total energy bands. Mankind will come out of this experience in a very beautiful way. But it needs to be told, to be shown the beauty of it, than trying to create the mayhem they do today. When I hear that the governments are going for a lockdown, I see that it's a criminal offense, because they don't let the soul of the man to interact with the energy packs to decide itself. They're not locking you down in your houses, they're locking you away from elevation of the soul in interaction with the fields. But we have to understand, sometimes some of us, when reach to that level, decides that physicality is no dimension to be in. Depends how you look at the life, depends how you understand it. And the truth is, we live so long to reach a point of elevation of the soul in 60s, 80 years old, 100 years old, where that elevation reaching the balance achieved in a very short time through Corona. Why do we leave the body? Why do we die? Doesn't it the point when the soul reaches a point of maturity and saturation that it can break through the boundaries of this, what we call the soul of physicality? Why do we see it as a bad thing? We don't commit suicide, but we allow our soul to decide the strength of where we want to be. Doesn't mean that when we survive using the ganses or whatever, our soul has stopped from reaching the point of maturity or goes to a higher level now that it can reach that point. Physical life is a painful life. I always said it's a sorrow life to be in the physical dimension, but sometimes we take this path because what we save in totality by the elevation of the other souls worth the sacrifice. Any other question? Can nearly 12:30.
Just checking over here, see if there's any last minute.
I think you had enough shock for today.
Yeah.
And we'll see how we move on and how the things take shape in the coming weeks and days. We hope in the coming weeks, we see a number of Keshe Foundation factories around the world become fully operational. Now that we've gone back into what we call research and development and commercialization, totally different way that we started 3 years ago with other companies. We have restructured everything. Mexico is coming to operation. Mexico is different than the rest of the Keshe Foundation operation. We own majority share in Macre, and Macre owns a company called KFUS, which owns the Mexican operation. So even though we start investing into Mexico, it goes through the Macre Corporation of the Keshe Foundation, as we are over 98% shareholder in that operation. We do not look at the market trend, as we know, when we introduced market within hours, Trump administration put pressure on the authorities to stop this technology through this company to expand rapidly. Shows the power of the technology of Iranian nation as a ownership is on the name of Iranian. But we see this to change very soon with the Biden's operation and in our work with the Chinese, that the people will decide the value of the shares of the Keshe Foundation as a market and not the administrations which are corrupt through and through. And in so many ways, it's a good indicator for the Keshe Foundation operation that how people will see it and how it will come out, as we have now submitted the accounts for 2019 and 2018 to the authorities, and 2020 will be done in the coming days. As the head of the, what we call chairman of Market, I have to inform sometimes the market what's happening, but the influence of the American administration on a company owned by Iranian name, it should not have affected the value of the shares, but it did, the way they tried to block it. And now we're going our own way. We are investing heavily into Mexico because it's part of us. Mexico is under a name owned by American organization, but in true title, we own it as a Keshe Foundation. And we start a massive investment project in what we call Mexico to bring it in line with the rest of the Keshe Foundation family, even though it's an umbrella of a different organization which is owned by the foundation. So you will see new products, new structures. Factory components are made in China to be shipped to Mexico. And in that way, you will see massive move in operation profitability and production in what we call Mexico Keshe Foundation factory under the banner of City of Tijuana. There's a lot of effort has been put in there by Armin and Angel, trying to bring it into a line. And you will see as we start supporting financially the Keshe Foundation Austria into the operation of the Mexico. As we see it now, we own the property and it's time to move. The same now has started in China. The same investment starts in what we call Austrian side of the operation. Iran is moving in a very beautiful way into a larger operation now. They have received their offices and they start operating from next week after the holidays. And we'll see where we go. And we're more or less getting balanced now back to where we were going 3 years ago, and others move to make sure it doesn't happen. Those who stopped us now find out that the power of will of the Keshe Foundation as the totality of us is much bigger than one or two people. But in a way, we are successful. And you will see a lot of changes. And you will see the promotion of the books. Teaching the knowledge internationally has started as of yesterday. We'll see much more exposure for the Keshe Foundation. Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you very much, the whole of the Keshe Foundation team and people in the background trying to get these fuzzy pictures to you, Rick, which you don't like and have fuzzy voices. But gradually we get better. As is a teething problem now that we got the television right, we got to go back to Zoom and the other side to get right for you that you're all stay happy. Thank you for today. And I hope the knowledge you gained today brought you some truth about the facts of life. Now, when the man doesn't move, the creator moves to move the man. Thank you very much and see you next time.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, for another Knowledge Seekers workshop here. This has been the 374th Knowledge Seekers workshop on Thursday, April 1st, 2021. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. And we'll see you next week at the same time and place for another Knowledge Seekers workshop, as well as there's the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace, which will also be broadcast to KFTV.
It's time for change.
Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata.
And it's time to
I
understand
nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że
we
używamy stanu
use the
materii,
matter state to reach the
by
level
osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka.
of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe
Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator
Creator has sent his messengers in
wysłał
the name
swoich
of
posłańców
whatever you have
w imię tego, co miałeś.
is that
To
they
oni przynoszą
bring
uszy,
the ears, that it can be
aby
used
można było ich
when the
użyć,
time of the
gdy
Messiah
nadejdzie czas
comes.
Mesjasza.
They can teach the soul and the
Mogę
message,
nauczyć duszę i przesłanie,
not to oppose.
nie by się
But
przeciwstawiać,
by them
ale poprzez ich
understanding
zrozumienie
those who have
przez
become
tych,
messiahs
którzy stali
to
się
give of their
Mesjaszami,
souls to these
aby
two
dawać ze
remain.
swoich dusz, aby ich elewować.
The job is made
Zadanie
easy.
stało się łatwe.
The school is there,
Szkoła
the
jest tutaj
students
i
are
uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu.
Then there won't be any
Wtedy nie
fight
będzie żadnej
between
walki
what they call the
między tym, co
Muslims
nazywają
and Christians.
muzułmanami a
The
chrześcijanami.
lamb and the lion
Baranek i
will
lew
eat
będą jeść i spać w tym
same
samym
nest.
gnieździe.
The Christians and
Chrześcijanie i
Muslims
muzułmanie
will sleep
będą
and pray
spać
in
i
the
modlić się w
mosque
meczecie,
and the same
w tym samym
church
kościele,
in the name of
w imię
their
ich
souls,
dusz,
not in the
nie w
name
imię
of
religii,
that is used
które
to
są
create
używane
so
do
much
tworzenia
conflict
tak wielu konfliktów,
for the benefit
dla
of
korzyści
those
tych,
who were
którzy
the
byli
hyperactive
hiperaktywnymi dziećmi.
The time has come.
Nadszedł
The time
czas,
of change is
czas
here.
zmian jest tutaj.
And as I
I
said,
jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem.
if it's your wish
Jeśli
to
pragniesz
see
ujrzeć
this,
pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie.
it's the soul
To
of
dusza
the
świadomości
collective
zbiorowej.
awareness by
Poprzez
giving
dawanie
or
stworzy
create
tą
that
pozycję
position
zmiany.
of change. No,
Nic innego.
there is no
W duszy
pen
człowieka
in the
nie
soul
ma
of the
długopisu.
man. And I'm
Jestem
sure
pewien,
once you
że
go
po
into
wejściu
the
do
universal
społeczności uniwersalnej
you will
nigdy nie
never see
zobaczysz
anything
niczego
written,
zapisanego,
but
ale
the balance
równowagę
of the
pól
being
duszy
is the soul of
egzystencji.
the existence. Try to be humble
Staraj
enough
się być na tyle pokornym,
not to become
aby nie
arrogant
stać się
in the
aroganckim
power
w mocy,
that you have understood and
którą
you
zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś.
otherwise you'll fall
Inaczej
in the same
wpadniesz w tą
path
samą
of the
ścieżkę
church.
kościoła i meczetu.
This
To
is
jest to, co
what we
obiecaliśmy
promised.
i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy.
This is what we have delivered. We have to understand
Musimy
the
zrozumieć
operation of the
działanie
soul,
duszy
and we have to
i
understand
musimy
the soul of
zrozumieć,
the
że
man
dusza
is a
człowieka
star
jest gwiazdą
in the
w kosmosie
cosmos
wszechświata.
of the universe. If we
Jeśli
compare
porównamy
the soul of the man
duszę człowieka i tak wielu
and
nas,
many of us,
7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze,
Earth is like a galaxy.
Ziemia jest jak galaktyka
So many
z tak
stars.
wieloma gwiazdami.
When we look in the depth
Kiedy
of the
patrzymy w
universe,
głąb
we see
wszechświata,
galaxies with
widzimy
hundreds of
galaktyki z
billions of
setkami
stars.
milionów gwiazd.
So is the
Podobnie
planet
jest z
Earth.
planetą Ziemią.
Carries
Niesie
7
7
billion
miliardów
beautiful
pięknych
stars,
gwiazd,
which are the
które
soul of
są
the
duszą człowieka.
carries
Niesie z
with
sobą
it
duszę
so-
tak
so
wielu
many
trylionów
trillions
zwierząt,
of
roślin
animals,
i
plants,
wszystkiego
and
innego.
animals. So
Jeśli
if you
więc
look,
patrzą ci,
when someone who does
którzy
not
nie
see
widzą
the
fizyczności
physicality
Ziemi
of the earth and its
i jej
contents,
zawartości,
what do
co
they see?
widzą?
They see a
Widzą
galaxy.
galaktykę z wielką
So
ilością
many
pięknych,
beautiful
świecących
lights
świateł,
shining. Each
każda
one
według
in
swojej
their
siły,
strength. Each
każda
one
zgodnie ze
according
swoją
to their
pozycją.
position. An infant,
Niemowlę ma piękną duszę,
so has
podobnie jak
soul.
staruszek.
To those
Dla
who
tych
do not see the
niefizycznych,
physical
którzy nie widzą
dimension of this
fizycznego
planet,
wymiaru tej planety,
but they see the
ale widzą
strength of
siłę
the field,
pola,
we are a
jesteśmy
cluster
gromadami
of
gwiazd.
stars. The human race,
Ludzka rasa, każda
every
pojedyncza
single
dusza,
soul, no one
nikt z
from a
daleka nie
distance
widzi.
sees, that's
To
the
jest
soul
dusza
of the
rybaka,
fisherman, that's the
to
soul
jest
of the
dusza kosmologa,
cosmologist, that's
to
the
jest
soul of
dusza
the president.
prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom. To jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz, że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej, by być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni, nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.